Rebel Force Radio presents.
I am Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
Jabba ruled with fear. I intend to rule with respect.
Boba Fett.
This is Rebel Force Radio's The Book of Boba Fett. After show.
What the chut did I just watch? What just happened? This episode absolutely drained me. In all the good ways. All the good ways. I've not experienced, even the last episode of episode 2, or excuse me, the last episode of season 2 of Mandalorian, which was huge, you know, the return of Luke Skywalker in all of his glory. It was such a huge moment, but it was a relatively short, compact scene at the end. And it was, you know, fairly traditional Mandalorian stuff, which is great, you know, throughout. This was just like non-stop. It did it all. I mean, Favreau and Filoni with this episode, they connected all the major dots. The original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, the Clone Wars, and even the sequel trilogy. Yeah, there was I think a pretty overt sequel trilogy nod in this, and we'll talk about it. But the thing that I wanted to really get off my chest right off the bat is that what this felt like to me was this was a huge, huge moment for us Star Wars long haulers. The long haulers. This is our just rewards. This is, if you've been around and you've seen it all, the ups, the downs, the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, Clone Wars, Rebels, Resistance, Droids, Ewoks, Holiday Special, Star Wars Lego, sequel trilogy. This was our moment because so much of it connected, and it finally, I think, became one big universe. In this episode, I know one guy who's epitomizes Star Wars long hauler, and that is, of course, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. So happy to be here this week. Happy my little buddy, sweet, sweet baby Yoda is back. And I'm really excited to talk about this episode. From the desert comes a stranger, or as it's alternately known as, white men can't jump, neither can baby Yoda.
Well,
remember he
not at first.
Jump.
Yeah.
Jump. And then you go,
Hey, but he was jumping towards once they got that remote firing at his feet. Dance, Grogu, dance.
I know he was.
Pew, pew.
He's got such a sweet little guy. He's going to sit up here with me for the rest of the show. But yeah, there's a lot to unpack from this episode, my friend.
But I got another alternative title for this episode. How about this? Keeping it 70s. Grogu's Choice.
Grogu's Choice. I like that.
I mean, the little guy at the end. I mean, you know, you can either come with me or you can go with that guy. You can save the galaxy with me and be a Jedi and fulfill your destiny, or go with that guy. It's kind of what it was like. I felt bad for him.
Kinda. But yeah, there were nods to all eras of Star Wars in this one episode, from the prequels to the sequels, and with a big helping of original trilogy in between.
No doubt.
And wow, the characters we know and love return to the small screen, and then we get a character in live action making his live action debut this week that positively gave me chills, and that's the debut of spoiler alert.
Do we need to? All right, fine.
Well, yeah.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
I saw a lot of people complaining about spoilers with, various YouTube thumbnails and pictures being, on social and all of that. And Jim, we learned that the hard way. I learned that the hard way back in the Mando after show days when I posted something I didn't think was a spoiler, but it was. Sometimes spoiler is in the eye of the beholder. It's in the eye of the spoiled.
The visual spoilers the screen grabs that give away a character reveal or something like that, that stuff I don't like. But to demand that the World Wide Web shut down all conversation about a new entry into the Star Wars lexicon because you and your wife always watch the show together and you can't hook up until Friday night.
Yeah.
Sorry, but
the world's not waiting for you, right? We're not waiting for you.
And nothing personal to the guy who is waiting until Friday to watch it with his wife. I'm happy that you guys are enjoying Star Wars together, but the World Wide Web isn't on your schedule. So let's just calm down on all of this stuff and try to exhibit some self-discipline. Wake up early if you can't watch.
Well, I mean, some people are on the other side of the world. Thankfully, our buddy Paul Bateman, he just, like, I wake up, now I know, on Wednesday mornings, I wake up, I grab my phone, I open the email, and it's Paul, and it was, this week it was just, wow. That was his email to us. So no spoilers, but at least we know that Paul liked it. And it was capital WOW, period.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Very emphatic from Mr. Bateman. But not a zipper to be found in this episode. And that makes Paul happy, and that makes me happy too, because that's a nod in the right direction of integrity. Oh, I should take that back. Because the mods were in this, and you could clearly see Sophie Thatcher wearing that zippered vest. Oh, what a crime. But
Jim, I interrupted you. You were talking about the debut of a new character, or of a character out of animation.
Didn't I say Cad Bane?
No, because then I threw the spoiler alert on, and we got derailed.
Then we had to pontificate on spoilers and give our big opinion on it, like anyone asked. But there he is, Cad Bane. Jason just put the screen grab up on our screens, and wow, did they nail this? And even more menacing than he was in the Clone Wars. More menacing than I could ever imagine this character being, and perfectly within his element, having a showdown on the dusty street, and I mean, he was right where he needed to be, directly out of the spaghetti western of your choice. It dropped right into the Star Wars universe via Mos Pelgo, or Freetown now, as it's known.
Freetown.
That's a nod to the expanded universe in the book. In the Aftermath book, Mos Pelgo was known as Freetown. And a lot of fans pointed out that inconsistency during season 2 of The Mandalorian when it was revealed Cobb Vanth lived in Mos Pelgo. But now everyone's happy. So
I see. They kowtowed. They kowtowed to the EU guys. Make it all work.
Sorry, I got an itch in my ear.
Right. Yes.
Sorry.
Ooh. Well, hey, before we get any further, do want to welcome back, as always, here to the show, our intrepid call screener, Tyler Page. Tyler, thanks so much for being here with us. Appreciate it. You help us so much get this show moving along and screening your calls. Screening at 708-866-1737. That's the number to call. So go ahead and get in the queue. Tyler, probably going to be a lot of action on the phone lines, I think, tonight.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
What are you looking for? What are you looking for from our callers? You've actually talked to more callers than Jimmy Mack and I have, because you talk to everybody, and sometimes we don't get to everybody.
Just the excitement, man. A lot of people have a lot of energy, and I think they bring the heat sometimes, and those calls are always the best, or insightful calls.
Yeah.
Either of that,
Okay, so insight, energy, that's what you got to bring, and Tyler's going to make sure that you get on. Okay, so those are the words we're looking for: insight, energy, passion. Tyler, we'll check back with you a little bit later, see what you thought of this week's episode.
Tyler, he's ready to go. He was texting me earlier today. He's like, I can't wait for the after show tonight. So I know he's locked and loaded. And
we are.
Mm-hmm.
All right, tail of the tape. We are the Book of Boba Fett after show here from Rebel Force Radio. We are looking at episode or chapter 6. Original air date February 2nd, 2022, 2222. Groundhog's Day. Also, I believe Billy D. Williams' birthday. I think he's a Groundhog's Day baby. At least the folks at, there was a Groundhog's Day festivities. They held up the groundhog, and then the mayor was talking about all the famous people born on Groundhog's Day, and he mentioned Billy D. Williams. Jumped out at me. Fact checkers,
No
get on
kidding.
that. Yeah.
Well, happy birthday, Billy D.
Yeah.
And so the question is, did Billy D see his shadow today? That's what I need to know. Because every day is springtime for Billy D. I think that's what everyone's waiting for.
That's what everybody's asking. All right.
Pull him out of the thing and... All right. On with
What the hell are you doing? They throw him out, out of his apartment.
What the hell are you doing?
Okay, anyway, all right. The runtime on this episode, 45, just about 46 minutes. Directed by Dave Filoni and written by Jon Favreau with, it looks like, a little help from Dave Filoni. And Jim, like you said, From the Desert Comes a Stranger. When I saw that title, I was like, is that borrowing from something? Because it's very poetic, it's very romantic, and I thought, and a lot of times, a lot of influences seep into this stuff, and I just thought, I don't know, it sounds like it could be something. So if you know, please let us know in the chat if that From the Desert Comes a Stranger is a famous something.
These titles often sound like Iron Maiden songs to me. I don't know. But not that I'm making a connection between that title and Iron Maiden. I have no idea.
No. Oh, is it an Iron Maiden song?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we let me get the phone number again, 708-866-1737. The switchboard is filling up very, very quickly. We will get to your super chats in just a moment, but we're going to set the stage with some topics that came out of this episode.
Well, I got a lot to say before we open up these phone lines.
Oh yeah, no. We yes, right. I do as well. So the Pikes are, man, they're wasting no time establishing themselves as a real planetary threat. In that opening scene, I was so happy to see Timothy Oliphant back in the series, or in Star Wars, I guess. It's very hard sometimes when I'm thinking and talking about this stuff to distinguish between Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian, because, Jim, other than the title, it seems somewhat arbitrary in a way, because this stuff is pulled right out of right out of Mandalorian. These characters, these situations. Boba was, for the most part, sidelined again. He shows up, and we do see him, and it ties back to what's going on there at Jabba's palace, but definitely sidelined.
I think there's room for that balance. Because it was so hyper-focused on Boba for the first several episodes. So now they're opening it back up and showing us how these series are truly interconnected, as we were told they would be. Interconnected, leading to a giant conclusion that is going to feature everyone. This could be a big crossover event. So the stage is being set for that, I think.
Yeah. Couple of things that happen with Oliphant's character, Cobb Vanth, in that opening sequence that I think is really cool, the way they establish him. The first thing that you notice is that he's a really fast draw. Like, he's not someone to be messed with. And he doesn't look, because he's a little slight, he's got the gray, he doesn't look like somebody who's going to do a lot of ass kicking. But man, he's fast on that draw, and he takes out 3 of the 4 Pikes.
Without that Mandalorian armor, I recognize that this guy is rail thin.
Yeah.
Like almost skeleton-like.
Yeah, very
I never noticed that about Timothy in the past, but he needs to eat a sandwich.
So we establish he's a good shot, which is great, because then when he gets taken down by Cad Bane at the end, you realize, wow, Cad Bane must be a real badass and a real fast draw. The other thing that I loved about what they did with with him is that when he has the spice laying there that the Pikes leave, and he could have. They said this is worth more than your town. He could have grabbed that, gotten the heck out of there. But what does he do? He kicks it open, kicks it over, and lets the dust and the sand just take it. He wants no part of it. And that, I think, really establishes that you've got a true blue in the mode of the old Westerns, the incorruptible marshal or sheriff.
Right. Well, I mean, what would you do if you found a truckload of cocaine? Would you try to move it on the black market yourself and put yourself at that kind of risk, or would you turn it into the proper authorities? I think that's
you know what? I'm so square. I wouldn't know what to do with it. I wouldn't have the foggiest idea.
Well, yes, or you could consume it, which I wouldn't recommend for anyone.
Right.
That's that's just my real world way of looking at it. He does have a great moral center, and that's what makes him a great leader. And of course, Cad Bane has a quick draw, because think about how long he survived. I mean, Cad goes back to the Clone Wars, and he's still alive after all the people who've been shooting at him and all the trouble he's caused, and he's survived this long. You're damn right he's got a quick shot.
Yeah, and you know what? I think he might have had some work, because I don't see a lot of wrinkles there.
Well,
yeah, maybe some crow's feet, but and those teeth. I got to tell you, I missed the toothpick. I wanted to see the toothpick.
I was looking for the toothpick too,
but there are some big gaps in those chompers. I don't know that. I think it would fall out. I don't know that you can hold it.
Like a Louisville Slugger sized toothpick to stay in there. But and it does appear he's found a very effective moisturizer to use, because he does look rather youthful. But I mean, he's Cad Bane. He looks exactly the way he should be looking, and that is pretty impressive. When he first came on the first shot, when Timothy's character Cobb Vanth, when he's looking and he sees him approaching, you just see the silhouette, and he's approaching. I said almost like this: "Who's that?" Cad Bane. And then they showed him, who's that? Cad Bane. And then they showed him again. I'm like, that is Cad Bane. I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see it. And so that was a
great entrance.
Like a real fanboy moment for me. And that's the type of reaction that these type of character reveals, these live action character reveals, this is what it brings out of you, as a fan. It really turns you into that little kid again. Almost.
Oh, it does. My reaction, as soon as I saw him and realized it was Cad Bane, I go, please be Corey Burton. Please be Corey Burton. Please be Corey Burton.
Yes.
I didn't want any other voice coming out of that face. No other voice. And it was.
No way, Jose. And at first I wasn't sure. I was like, Cobb Vanth.
Yeah,
and
right.
Uh-oh. Is that Corey? And then as soon as he started going into his little monologue there, it was very clear that we were getting the authentic touch of really one of the true vocal masters to ever work on Star Wars. The stuff Corey Burton brings to the table is ridiculous in terms of how much range he has.
Oh, yeah. It's a joke, because most people haven't heard of the show, and those who have wish they hadn't. But Corey Burton was the voice of James Bond Jr. in the James Bond Jr. cartoon. And at the time, I looked it up when I did the commentary with Mike Mercy. We looked it up, and he was in his late 30s, early 40s, and he sounded, because he was doing a voice, like a 17, 18-year-old kid. It was just, again, you talk about the range this guy has. It's amazing. So I was just thrilled. And can we all take a moment to remember the most Star Warsy of Star Wars characters, Deputy Scott, who lost his life at the hands of Cad Bane. That's his name, Scott.
That guy was a sad sack.
Come on, Dave. Come on, John. Scott.
Scott.
Why didn't you name him Frank? I mean, come on.
He's lucky he got a name at all. That guy didn't bring much to the table.
That's kind of like when George, named Obi-Wan's planet in front of Jon Stewart. He's just, all right, so John. He's like, well, don't make it up here. Put some thought into it, man. Hey, John, everyone's going to want to know the name of the deputy. I don't know, Barney? No, that you can't do Barney. Let's just call him, hey, guy, what's your name? Scott. All right, let's call him Scott. I think that's how it went down.
Cad Bane, very impressive. Yes. I can't wait to see more of him. I mean, he just showed up, made a threat, and shot 2 guys and left. I wonder what kind of real action we'll be seeing him involved in. As
well, he's hired by the Pikes, so he's there. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking about this, like, okay, so he's a bounty hunter, or at least last time we saw him, he was a bounty hunter, but he's a gun for hire. I think you might say that too. Mercenary, kind of an interesting choice for the Pikes. Like, why might they need a guy like Cad Bane to deliver these types of messages? I mean, the Pikes have extraordinary wealth. They've got artillery. They've, I think they're, fairly well fortified and all that. I think hopefully we'll get more background on that, other than just to say, well, he's a hired gun, he's a mercenary. I want to know a little bit more about why him and what he's actually doing for the Pikes a bit.
And I found it interesting, the things he was saying about Boba Fett. Cold-blooded killer who worked with the Empire. And so that leads me to believe that Cad, just the way he was talking, I don't think Cad Bane ever had any experience working for the Empire as a hired hand like Darth Vader and the bounty hunters. Cad never got the call. Maybe he's bitter about that.
Well, he worked for Palpatine in the Clone Wars, but I don't know that he didn't know it was Palpatine. I think it was probably through Dooku. Wasn't he the one that was hired to get one of the holocrons? Was that? I thought that was Cad Bane, the holocron heist.
Yeah, holocron heist. What was he on Palpatine's payroll for that? I mean, that seems.
Well, Palpatine was at the end of it, but yeah, it was like Dooku and the
right. If you followed the money,
right,
yeah,
right. Yeah. So a couple of questions about the sequence with Mando, showing up on that planet. By the way, we have no confirmation what that planet's name is, that I know of. Right. Do you know something that I don't know?
They didn't reveal anything. No.
Yeah, no. And. Should we rule out that it is or isn't the same planet that Luke's academy was on, where we see in the sequel trilogy? We know that it's not the same place, right? Or
I think it is the same place.
It is the same. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this is the very Jedi temple that Kylo Ren destroyed.
Okay, all right. Yes. I didn't want to assume that, because how these. How it goes sometimes. It's like some book comes out or there's some little line that you didn't see in a comic and it's established. But okay, that makes sense. I'm glad that there's no complexity here, and what we're seeing is what we think we're seeing, at least in my case.
That's how I read it.
So Mando shows up on this planet, and one question I had was, how did he know where to go? Because I don't think Luke left him a business card.
Okay. There you go. That is a little something of a plot hole, but maybe Luke did. Luke did.
If you really want to see him.
Maybe he foresaw something that told him it might be a good idea to tell the Mando where he was going to be basing himself, where he's taking the kid. I mean, he kind of owed the Mando that at the very least.
But then when he gets there,
conversation we didn't see. Maybe it was some sort of transmission.
Sure. Okay,
it could be any type of connection the two of them might have made, and maybe Luke foresaw something that where he thought a meet up with the Mando would be good for Grogu.
We've got some great folks in the chat that are kind of saying, "Hey guys, he is a bounty hunter," and it's like, Yeah,
No,
that's
he does
true.
track.
You know,
Yeah,
he can drive. So I'm willing to go there. I'm willing to go there.
Yeah.
I have to rule out that he was given coordinates or given instructions on how to find Grogu because, I mean, Ahsoka makes it very obvious that he's not really welcome there, that he's kind of throwing a wrench in the Grogu's training. And then, then I'm kind of holding out hope thinking, well, maybe Luke will find this out and he'll be like, we didn't invite him in. Mando was here. Come on. But he's like, yeah, Mando was here, wasn't he? And I was like, yeah. So it's not a good thing. So I think we can kind of rule out that he was invited. I don't know that the open invitation was ever given to him. But what's with the weird thing that R2 does? By the way, R2, I mean, that got applause in our house when R2 showed up. I mean, R2, he's like Santa. You know, he always turns you into a little kid. But what was with the weird thing where he shut down when he got like to a certain closeness to the temple that they were building or the hut?
I didn't like that. I didn't like that because it put that sour feeling in my stomach that I felt during The Force Awakens when he was under a tarp for the whole damn movie.
Yes.
I just didn't like, oh, no, he's not shutting down again. At first I thought maybe this is when he shuts down and he doesn't turn himself back on until the end of The Force Awakens. But that's impossible. So that was my reaction.
Yeah.
And and it did make me a little nervous. You know, there's something about R2. I love seeing him and everything, but man, oh man, does this CG version of him lack?
Is it bug you? Really?
It bugged me. I think there should always be some cutaway scene of someone in the R2 shaking it around and stuff and giving him some real life, some real energy.
Yeah.
That was the magic of R2.
Yep.
Was when he would do stuff, when he'd shake around. And that's stuff that you don't get with the CG. And they don't even try replicating it a lot of the times. They just have him roll. He looks like he's a remote control R2 that you see at the convention center.
It's almost like kind of too perfect in a way. You know, George always lamented the fact that he couldn't get those, damn things to move the way he wanted to, and they were always falling down. And it's like, well, now we've got the one to do, now we've got the ability to do CG, and he's never going to fall down. But yeah, you know what? He's never going to shake. He's never going to shimmer. And, when you go back and you look at some of the documentaries surrounding them recreating Yoda as a CG, I believe it's not John Knoll. Who am I thinking of that oversaw all of that? I can't think of his name. Rob Coleman. Yes, Rob Coleman. And he talked about you want to incorporate those imperfections into the CG. Some of the things that were kind of giveaways by the puppet, you want to incorporate into the CG because without it, it looks unnatural. It just doesn't look like the character. And I think you're right, Jim. Some of that collateral movement that was done because of the limitations that they had really created the personality of the character. And without it, it's a little missing.
Yes, just a little bit. Also, we did see R2 shut down during Attack of the Clones, but I think he was just in sleep mode because he was easily reawoken when.
Yeah, I thought he was just sleeping. Yeah, I thought he was just sleeping.
Yeah, I guess he's just charging up.
Now,
he had one of those little, one of these things, and he was like plugged into the wall, charging up.
It's like Pee Wee Herman with Conky, how he just unplugs him, and Pee Wee's Playhouse reference for those of you. The other thing that I thought of too with R2 is, and you kind of reminded me of that, Jim, when we compared it to the nap that he takes in Padme's quarters, is maybe that was his way of telling Mando, like, we're going to be here a while. We're waiting for Lady Ahsoka, so I'm going to take a nap. Why don't you? And Mando does. I mean, it looks like he does.
Let's see here and just watch these ant droids at work, these construction ant droids. The ant droids were cool. That was a cool special effect. It was fun watching them in motion. And they sort of reminded me of, now this is a deep cut, all right? It reminded me of the 1981 arcade video game, The End, from Stern Electronics. The End. It's you have to stop bandits from stealing bricks from your defense base, It's a very basic gameplay. It's a very hard game. And we're having a big Galloping Ghost meetup on Friday night in Brookfield. Yeah. And so if you guys want to remind me, I'll show you the game. The end. It's really hard, really, really hard. But those androids were cool.
I like the way they played with this before they revealed the android. I don't know if you caught this. There was the quick moment where you saw the rock and you go, someone's levitating boulders over there. And then you see the android coming over the hill with the boulder.
What was it? Well, at first I thought it was Luke training Grogu on levitating stones and boulders and whatnot, but then it was revealed to be the android.
Let's look at some super chats here. So much to talk about. We are going to get to your calls. 708-866-1737. With an episode like this, gang, we could be here all night. We've got a lot of folks joining us live. Thank you all so much. We've got Ethan chiming in here. He says, Boba Fett in this episode for 1 minute, 6 seconds and no speaking. Well, Tem got his wish. He talks too much. And all right. Well, guess what? For the next 2 episodes, he's not going to talk at all. Thanks, Ethan. Appreciate that, bud. Travis, is this, where do we go? Oh, no, sorry. Danny. Danny says, what great music. Love the new Luke theme song. Who will we see next, boys? Rex, Hondo. Let's talk about the music for a minute because I feel terrible because we do these after shows. And Jim, a lot of times it's you or it's somebody else brings up the music. And I don't know. It goes over my head unless it's hitting me, unless it's beating me over the head. It goes over my head. Nothing just jumped out at me. I mean, some Yoda, Yoda's theme, some of those cues, hints at the Force theme, nothing overt. But I mean, I'm not saying it was bad. It was just not noticeable to me, the music.
That was good. On my first few viewings of new Star Wars, music a lot of times is really a low priority. I'm really trying to soak in all the dialogue, all the character moments, the action sequences. Of course, they always benefit from a strong soundtrack, but you're so overwhelmed by the visual a lot of times and the entire experience, all the energy that it drives, you don't really pick apart the music as much. At least that's been my experience with Star Wars, especially over the course of the last several years with so much content being thrown at us at once. Now, the soundtracks for the first 4 episodes, I believe, are now streaming. Mm-hmm. So if you have Amazon or whatever, Spotify, well, no, I think on Spotify. I don't know if
I think on all of them, Apple Music.
I think Baby Grogu wrote an open letter to Spotify saying, please remove Book of Boba Fett music immediately from your platform. But
oh no, Grogu's pulling out. Grogu
signed Grogu, but no, I'm sure it's available on Spotify and it's worth a listen. It's good stuff, and this is an episode definitely that I'm looking forward to the soundtrack release for. But a new Luke theme that kind of went by me. I think I was hearing a lot of Grogu's theme throughout, and by Grogu's theme I mean that music that we hear often in Mandalorian season 2, specifically when he's looking at the frog lady's egg canister. Well, that almost sounded dirty. Yeah, he's looking at the frog lady's egg canister. But that's that type of music with the little chimes, and we did a breakdown of that music recently on the main show, and somebody with great ears in the RFR listening audience found a connection to some classical pieces on which Ludwig Göransson probably based those themes. But a new Luke theme, that's Grogu's theme. A new Luke theme, I have to watch the episode a few more times for it to make any sort of imprint on me.
Danny also asks if there are any other character reveals that we might get. He said Rex, Hondo. I don't doubt anything anymore. I mean, it's possible. It's always possible.
Rex would be interesting. Rex would be interesting, but kind of weird.
Yeah, to have Tem and Rex, or Tem and Rex, Boba and Rex together there, two clones, that would be weird.
I don't believe Ahsoka is going to be joining this Tatooine battle versus the Pikes. I don't think we're going to see Ahsoka there.
I don't think so either. Yeah, I agree. I think she's going to be sort of a phantom character in a way. She's going to drop in and out, but I don't see her showing up, with the cavalry when we know that that's maybe what's going to happen. We can speculate. We'd love to hear your speculations. Diana, hey, thanks, Diana, very much. Appreciate the super chat there. Here's Chris. Did another Mac vision come to fruition? Grogu and Din both experienced the same thing as younglings, seeing his people die. RFR number 1. Thanks for all you do. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
That was an interesting sequence when Luke used the Force to assist young Grogu to see suppressed memories. And this is a new Force power for Luke. We've never seen Luke Skywalker do anything like this. All the other abilities that he exhibited in this episode are very consistent with the Luke we left off with in Return of the Jedi. But this little trick he just pulled with baby Grogu, helping him
the mind meld
mind meld. Yeah, right. It is kind of like a mind meld. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
But the ability to bring back suppressed memories that way was really an incredible new step forward for the character of Luke Skywalker. And I almost get a lump in my throat saying that, because here we are talking about the character of Luke Skywalker taking new steps forward and growing stronger in the Force. And we're seeing it in live action.
It's incredible.
Amazing.
It's actually incredible.
Amazing. And they didn't have to bring in another actor to play Luke. I mean, sure, there's stand-ins and body doubles and what have you, but the character is Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
And so I get very excited thinking about Luke and his growing Force abilities and what kind of potential he has. But also, as far as the flashback goes, the Jedi in the middle, I believe, is supposed to be Sin Dralig, who was played by Nick Gillard in the brief moment when Obi-Wan and Yoda are in the archives and they see a hologram of Jedi being slaughtered by the clone troopers.
I thought so too. This is sort of the other side of the camera, so to speak.
That was Nick. And so his character is canon. And so I think this is supposed to represent him, because the character was said to have been there at the Jedi Temple protecting younglings and
not very
and
well.
Other Jedi and other, well, no, I mean, they were overwhelmed by
right. But with this sequence, so I was waiting for it, and I've got it up on the screen here, because with Luke doing the Jedi mind meld, I thought for sure we were going to see Anakin come through the center of those 501st troopers, and that Luke was going to pull away and stop, because that is something that he wouldn't want to see. Just thought that they were going to go there. They didn't go there. It's fine. They didn't. If I was writing it, that's what they'd have done. But I might not have recovered from that moment. I barely made it through this episode. Yeah, super chat. Ferris 84 says, Book of Boba Fett, Luke, face equals beautiful, voice equals snore. Hashtag Robo Jedi. All right.
Let's talk about Luke's voice. Now, we all know it's artificially created. A company called Respeecher developed this technology. It's artificial intelligence. And then they feed Mark's dialogue into the machine, and it comes out, and it's young Mark based on samples taken from throughout his career. It's sort of like deep fake technology, but for voices.
Right.
And we're getting a real scary territory with technology here, with the ability to make anyone say anything you want them to say in their own voice.
Right. That
scares me, I'm an audio guy, so I
right.
While I do rejoice in the development of the technology, it also frightens me quite a bit. But I find that there are advancements needed to be made in this technology, because I found that Luke's voice was very monotone throughout. And I noticed that very similar to the Mandalorian season 2 finale when Luke showed up. His dialogue is kind of buried in the mix a little bit more than other characters.
Interesting.
And I wonder if that's somehow to cover up some of the imperfections in this new technology to make it sound like it belongs in these scenes.
It does have a bit of an ethereal kind of, I know exactly what you're saying, because I sensed it myself. It does sort of blend in and is, I don't want to say it's ghost-like, but it is more ghost-like. It doesn't have as much presence as the other dialogue. You're absolutely right. You're right.
So they need to boost up his voice, and they got to give him a little more gain in the mix. But I think this is being all done for very specific reasons, and I think it's being done to cover up certain imperfections in the new technology. However, that being said, I am absolutely floored and completely excited about where this is heading as far as Star Wars goes. How close can we get to actually having sequels to the original trilogy featuring the big three characters in their prime as they would have appeared in the mid 80s should George Lucas have made sequels to the Star Wars original trilogy?
I think it's going to happen. That's where we're at right now. Without a doubt, it's going to happen. Without a doubt.
So what kind of direction can things go in? It's the possibilities are endless. Absolutely endless.
Just a little shameless promotion here. We've got more than 800 people listening and watching live and only about 200 likes. So could you please hit the like button? It really, I know you like all people on YouTube say this, but it is true. It really does make a huge difference. So please, it doesn't take much. Just hit the like button. Even if you just kind of like it, hit the like button. We'd appreciate it very much. Here's Matt. Matt says, Stranger in a Strange Land is a Maiden song, which was the name of the last episode. Also, thank you, Jimmy, for telling me about the Galloping Ghost. Right.
Great. Well, we'll be there on Friday, actually. And it's open to all. All are welcome. $20 admission at the Ghost. We're going to be there at 6. We'll probably stay till about 9 p.m. And then we'll head across the street to Imperial Oak Brewing for a few adult beverages. And it should be a blast. We got Billy Mack coming out. I believe Christian Mock will be out there. Possibly some of the real fans of the saga. The Babu Freaks will be in the house. You know the Freaks will be there. And it's going to be a good time. They got lots of great Star Wars games there. And it should be a really fun night.
Do we have deets on the website yet? If people want to go and look?
Well, yeah, gallopingghost.com, I believe, is where you want to go. Or just do a Google search on the Galloping Ghost Arcade.
Oh, I was thinking like the night and the time that y'all were going to be there. Is that on our website?
It's on our Patreon.
It's on the Patreon.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's, we let our Patreon supporters know about everything first.
All right. Unsourced Wall Radio says, I find it interesting that we might be getting the Boba and Cad Bane rematch before the original duel. Hope we get a flashback or something to that. Yeah, Jim, we were talking earlier about, Cad sort of being catty, you might say, about Boba Fett, saying, hey, this isn't a good guy. He's worked for the Empire. That shows that maybe there's some bad blood between them.
There's bad blood between Cad Bane and Boba Fett. I mean, that goes way back.
Well, he was just a kid, He was just a kid.
Yeah, but still. I mean,
we haven't seen the duel. The duel is not... Well, the duel is not canon yet, right? Because we haven't actually seen it.
You think Boba Fett ever gave up his hatred toward Mace Windu for killing his father? No, he carries a grudge. Damn right he carries a grudge.
Well, I was talking more about Cad Bane. I just feel like a guy like Cad Bane that was as established and seasoned as he was, going up against this punk kid, like to him, he would have been just like a blip, like a nothing. Like a little gnat, I've seen a first 1,000 young punks.
Yeah, well, he, that was one punk that really built his reputation into the most dangerous bounty hunter in the galaxy. So,
here's Bogs. Do you think Boba will see Luke again? I don't know. I'm so reluctant to speculate at this point, because I don't. When you just look at the Grogu choice, like I want him to stay with Luke, and I also want him to go back with Din Djarin. And I also don't want him to go with Din Djarin. I also don't want him to stay with Luke. So I mean, it's I'm really torn about this. I really am.
We learn what the result of Grogu's choice was by next episode.
Yes. I say
You're not
yes.
going to leave us hanging until Mandalorian season 3?
No, I think they've got a bigger cliffhanger to leave us with before that. I don't think they're going to hang this up on. This is Boba's story. It's not Grogu's story. So I feel like they're not going to do that. I think it's more likely that they're going to leave us hanging on the edge of a big battle, and we'll see the continuation or the climax of that battle in the opening of Mando season 3. Just a guess.
Yeah.
Just a guess.
I
don't ever want it to be over.
We're going to have to display, I think we're going to have to display a little bit of patience.
Yeah.
Before we find out what Grogu's decision was. Yoda's lightsaber.
Yeah.
Or the chainmail.
Which you called, by the way, it's not a necklace. I get I get that. I feel really dumb now. Yeah, but I was like, man, a chain link, like Lord of the Rings, medieval style gown just seemed very un-Star Warsy to me, but there it is. I still think it's a little too, armor in Star Wars is, it has its own unique look. It doesn't look like something that you just took off a, medieval knight necessarily. I don't know. It's fine.
What I like about Luke giving him an ultimatum essentially is that it really gives us solid foreshadowing about Grogu potentially returning to the Mandalorian and then living his life as a Mandalorian. Because there was a difference in philosophy, you could tell right away between Din and Luke. Din believed that Baby Yoda should be getting that armor because that is his right as a Mandalorian foundling. And then Ahsoka called him out and said, well, is he really a Mandalorian foundling or is he a Padawan?
Right.
It's like, stick that in your pipe and smoke it, Mando. So... And speaking of Ahsoka, I'm so glad that Dave Filoni resisted the opportunity for her to call the droid R2-y. I was like, oh, here
you think that was a possibility?
I think anything's possible. But no, I think that was something that Filoni himself was a little irritated with at first. Because it never came back.
I think Dave wanted
Sky Guy in the mix, and fans used to complain about that in the early days of the Clone Wars. But lots of fans spoke up when Ahsoka was calling R2 R2-y.
Well,
all right, we're getting a little too sugary here now with our Star Wars. Let's back off.
I do appreciate the line. There were two great lines from Ahsoka. The one was, I'm an old friend of the family, which was, I thought, really clever. And then I also like that little moment when, she says to Luke, that you're so much like your father. And I mean, I'm just looking at this picture of Ahsoka and Luke Skywalker on the screen right now. Mm-hmm. Like, never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would ever see this.
Holy crap. And boy, oh boy, was the deep fake on Luke so great with the lighting in this moment and the way he's looking at her and everything. I was really taken aback by that. And I'm not seeing anybody complaining about the CGI in this episode. Not like they did when Luke debuted in The Mandalorian. Where a lot of people all of a sudden were experts on deepfake technology and they had YouTube videos to prove it. Oh, the training sequence with the lightsaber. As a matter of fact, the whole training sequence. I mean, how thrilling was it to see Luke run around the woods with Baby Yoda in the backpack. Oh, Swank's just like right on cue. He's got a photo of that. Oh, by the way, I love the black martial arts gi that Luke is wearing. You know, it's not his typical Jedi garb from Return of the Jedi. This is a whole new ensemble for Luke Skywalker, and I thought it was just great. Little shorty road action there for you, Swank. I know you're a big fan.
I thought I saw a black shorty robe. Now this does screw up my my custom that I've done here. So I've taken a Black Series Jedi Luke here, and I got the backpack that came with the Dagobah training Luke, and then little Grogu in here. And I got the green screen, so it kind of messes up. But there he is. He's riding. I mean that was just. To see that scene, that iconic scene redone with Luke and Grogu like that was, I mean, it was just incredible. Outrageous. It was outrageous. I just kept saying throughout the whole thing, I can't believe they're doing this. I can't believe I'm seeing this. I can't believe this is happening.
And there was real beauty too, because it's like, of all the things that Luke Skywalker can do with his power, you know what he likes to do? He likes to climb up a tree and take in the scenery. And I thought that was just like a great moment. You know, what does Luke do with these powers? He's up a tree and then he connects with the Force, you know, and takes a deep breath. And it's like, and then Grogu does it too. And it's like, they both react like, it's just refreshing, you know, it fills them up. Another great part, that lightsaber training sequence was, the green blade reflecting in Grogu's eyes as he watched Luke train in awe. I thought that was just a beautiful visual, man. I mean, just unbelievable. Climbing trees.
And what was cool about that was because if you remember Jim in the flashback sequence, you can also see the lightsabers in Grogu's eyes as the Jedi are falling. And then later he sees those lightsaber, the Luke's green lightsaber in his eyes. And so you get the sense that, you know, this is, you know, perhaps stressful, maybe even on Grogu. And there was a line too that I thought was really interesting where he was talking to Ahsoka, and he said that he felt like Grogu was remembering more than Luke was actually training. And you figure, okay, he's a baby, but he's 50 years old. I mean, he saw a lot in his 50 years.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so Luke recognizes that. He's like, oh yeah, you know, it's that muscle memory is coming back to Grogu, but what he lacks is the commitment. He lacks the the road is one way for a Jedi. You have to be fully committed for it to work. You can't half-ass being a Jedi. And because of his relationship with the Mandalorian, now we're recognizing where there are dents in the armor, so to speak. And what was amazing, though, and I felt so bad for Din Djarin because he couldn't connect with Grogu and he could see him.
Yeah. He's
like, well, I've come all this way, you know, and you could hear the emotion. Good job from Pedro Pascal, really selling that moment, because he did. It's hard to do, you know, actor with a mask on. And so here's where Din Djarin sets himself apart, even from Luke Skywalker. He shows greater virtue because he walks away from his selfish desires to honor the greater good. Luke failed in that department in Empire Strikes Back when he rushed to go save his friends on Cloud City. He was abandoning everything to do that. And he paid a big price for it. So Mandalorian is able to walk away from that at this moment. And Ahsoka calls him out on it too. She's like, are you doing this for him or are you doing this for you?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and he also subjugates his belief system that he laid out to the armor about loyalty, and he subjugates that for the belief system of the Jedi, of what Ahsoka and Luke are, by extension, are asking of him to do. which is very, altruistic.
He passes the selflessness test.
Oh, yeah.
And Yoda, this is what Yoda warned Luke about. If you leave now, help them you could, but you will destroy all for which they have fought and suffered. Mandalorian passed the test. I want to thank my buddy Steve Swanson for helping me see that a little more clearly. He might be watching this, so I don't want to take credit for that observation when it came from Steve. But I felt the vibe, I felt the vibe.
All right, let's hit the phones. We've got on the line right now, we have Diana. Diana, a Patreon member from New Jersey. Hello, you're on with Rebel Force Radio.
Hi, Jason. Hi, Jimmy. How are you guys?
All right. How are you doing tonight?
Diana.
I'm so excited. I just an amazing episode, and I was telling Tyler, and again, like, this is going to be like a little sugary for Jimmy Mac's taste, but I think this is Dave's love letter to George, because it had every element of every George episode and the Clone Wars as well. And I feel like now Dave has graduated from his trials and on to, he's like a full Jedi Knight.
I think it's a great observation. I don't think it's overly sugary at all. That expression, a love letter too, it gets used a lot. I think in this case, I think you're bang on. I think that it's not a coincidence that this was sort of a culmination in a way, or a corralling of all these great concepts. And you know what, the common denominator under all of them, with the exception of maybe Luke's hut and how it resembles the hut that we see in the sequel trilogy, the common denominator under all of it was George Lucas. You're absolutely right, Diana. And I think that no matter what happens, no matter what Lucas or Disney thinks of George, or Kathleen Kennedy thinks of George, Dave Filoni thinks a lot of George. And I think as long as Dave Filoni is writing Star Wars, it's going to be, there's going to be huge Georgisms throughout it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, and John definitely respects George's art as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, he just gets it.
Yes,
he just gets it.
Yeah.
Mr. Favreau.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Dave Filoni for years and years has said countless numbers of times, every opportunity he gets, he always turns the spotlight on George Lucas and gives that man credit, and credits him for teaching him everything he knows about how to make Star Wars. And that was George Lucas's goal when he started Lucasfilm Animation in the first place, was he was taking these guys in, they would have these meetings, and he would teach them how to make Star Wars. Heck, he even involved his own daughter in those meetings too, Katie Lucas, who wrote some great Clone Wars scripts over the years. And I wish her voice would be heard a little bit more at the Lucasfilm table. What happened to Katie? I would love to see her return to Star Wars and get a shot at writing some scripts for a streaming series. Obviously, Jon Favreau has that gig locked down with his shows, but we know that the programming slate is going to be ever expanding. And let's hear it for Katie Lucas. Everybody talks about Dave Filoni being like a son to George. How about getting one of his actual daughters there? That would be fabulous.
Yeah, that would be nice. We really enjoyed her involvement with Clone Wars. I have to pull the curtain back just a little bit, because this is an observation that I had early on, and I want to be kind of like you, Jim, with saying, hey, you know what, that thought came to me through someone else. But I got this text from a friend of mine, and I hadn't watched the episode yet, but I had scrubbed through it. Long story. I had scrubbed through it, so I had an idea of what was coming. And he wrote me and he goes, "The Book of Boba Fett Chapter 6 may be the most Star Warsy Star Wars ever." And I got to be honest, the reaction I had was like, just chill out, okay? First of all, nothing's gonna nothing is going to out Star Wars, the original, okay? So, and and I felt bad because I feel like I sort of took the wind out of his sails, but I said, people are reacting like this because what we've been fed is Star Wars, with few exceptions, since 2012, is not Star Wars. We're like people in hell raving about how tasty the ice is when we're given it once in a while. So, yeah, all right. I was maybe having a bad moment, but
well, you know, it's crappy weather, and
right.
We're all a little cranky. We're all a little cranky.
Right, but my point was that, was this episode incredible? Yes, seeing Luke Skywalker, it was. But we're now 10 years into the Disney acquisition, and I would argue that this shouldn't be blowing our minds as much as it is 10 years into them at the helm. We should have been treated to this kind of stuff from the beginning. And I'm including the sequel trilogy in it. Because what Favreau and Filoni are, not to take anything away from them, but what Favreau and Filoni are proving is it's not that hard. And I think Disney has twisted themselves in knots, making it a lot more difficult than it needed to be.
Well, that's what happens when you have too many cooks in the kitchen, my friend. And it appears that Jon Favreau has been able to insulate himself from a lot of the BS that maybe other productions and producers have had to deal with, especially in the Star Wars cinematic universe, where we know it's like, you know, you're basically putting yourself in front of a firing squad every day, it seems like.
Sure. When I say that it's not that hard, that may not be fair. Well, I'm not saying that what they're doing isn't challenging, and you're absolutely right. They're putting themselves, you know, there's not a bigger spotlight, I think, when it comes to entertainment than Star Wars, and we're a very particular fan base. What I mean is that there's hard and then there's overthinking, right? Okay. And I think that's, I feel like that's sort of more along the lines of what I'm getting. Like, guys, all you had to do was give us those 3 GD characters, at least those 3. You had them all signed. Give them to us. Give us the reunion that we wanted, instead of being so clever and so impressed with yourselves of how you're able to subvert expectations. Enough. But it's very difficult to be praising this and at the same time be anything but absolutely disdainful about what we endured with the episodes 8 and 9. And I don't even really include 7 in that, but 8 and 9.
When J.J. Abrams or Michael Arndt before him would say things like, it's so hard to put Luke Skywalker in a scene because he takes away from the characters we're trying to use to introduce a new generation of Star Wars. When they say that, and then you see an episode like this, you realize how bloody wrong those guys were and how chicken, you know what, they were. A big yellow stripe running down their back. Chicken. This is Star Wars that is meant to be made. This is Star Wars that has a set of cojones. And this is Star Wars that is fully aware and knowledgeable about its past.
Yep.
And it's bringing it all together into one amazing buffet, which, I mean, just keeps growing bigger and bigger now. Like I said, these series are all interconnected. And that's the plan from the get-go. So many people say, oh, well, it's called Book of Boba Fett, but he's not even in the show. Again, I think it was all kind of top-heavy on Boba Fett, you know? And now it's re-entering into the world of, you know, it's told the Boba Fett origin story for the new Boba Fett. Okay.
Yeah.
For this reimagined character. And sure, whenever you reimagine a classic character that's been around for 40 years, there's going to be, oops, I lost my baby. There's going to be immediate pushback from the fan base. Let me get rid of this thing. So that's the thing. You know what? Where there should have been immediate pushback is I think there was a big time character death in this episode. And I'm not talking about Cobb Vanth, who may or may not still be alive. I think he is. I mean, his doofus deputy.
I was going to say, you're talking about Deputy Scott?
Yeah, I'm not talking about Deputy Scott, but I'm talking about Max Rebo. Did we witness the death of Max Rebo? Oh, man, I got to get to the gig. Did we... Did we witness the death of Max Rebo? Remember the outrage when Admiral Akbar was sucked out into space and there was nary a mention of him after that.
I wondered. Max? Yeah, I wondered that too. I didn't. I actually went back. I went back specifically and scrubbed to see if you got a clear shot of Max in this episode, and you don't. There is no clear, clean shot of Max in this episode.
Is that right?
You see.
Sworn we saw him.
No, you see the Figrin Dan. You see him. There's an over-the-shoulder shot of the two waiters, the two Twi'lek, I don't know, whatever they are, the ones that always come up and shake you down for your helmet. And you see kind of a blue blur. People are saying, no, Max was nowhere to be seen. No, that's not true. I think Max was definitely there because of this blue blur. It's obvious, but they didn't do a close-up shot. And that may have been something that they decided later, like, oh, yeah, we should cut out any close-up shots that we have of Max. So we'll see. I predict that he lives again. This could be like a new, running gag in future Star Wars, is whenever there's a bar, Max Rebo is going to show up and, the stuff's going to go down and he's going to be walking out from the debris.
He's like taking a leak in the alley. Oh, what was that, man?
Oh, no,
they blew the place up, man. Right. Now I got to go find me another gig.
Anybody who's ever been in a band knows that there's that one guy in the band that always knows when to go for the smoke break.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. All right, we got to get to some more of these calls here. People have been very, very patient. This is Patreon and first-time caller James from Missouri. Hello, James. You're on with RFR. Book of Boba Fett after show. Hello.
Hey, chut, boys. How you doing?
All right, thanks.
Chut.
Hey, so, this is such an amazing episode. So much to talk to, but I want to get back to the point that, we are talking about a show called The Book of Boba Fett. And I think that with the last couple episodes, people have been, ranting and raving. They've been fantastic episodes, great world-building episodes. But with Boba, I feel that the reason why we had so much Boba in the beginning is kind of like you guys were saying, Boba has to be terrestrial. We're setting up Boba. He's a character that we're having to set up a whole bunch of new history with. Whereas Mando was a new character, so he could go and we could universe build. We could add all these characters and bring them all together at the end. But if we do kind of like timeline looking, Boba was a cold-blooded killer, as said by Cad Bane, who worked for the Empire. He also works for Jabba. Sarlacc was left for dead. He found family with the Tusken Raiders, and we can assume that was that 5-year gap that they talk about between Jedi and Mandalorian. Then that family gets murdered by the Pikes or the Nikto Riders, as he thinks. I can't remember what they're called, but the not Kanji Club, gang.
Yeah.
Kintin Striders.
He goes. Kintin Striders. He goes. He gets revenge on that gang immediately. Whether or not they were hired by the Pikes or not, their mark was there, and that was that cold-blooded killer coming back out in Boba Fett again. He went and he.
Did we lose you?
We lost.
Oh, James, sorry, man. No, good points. Good points.
Yeah.
For sure. I think that, I want not to repeat myself, which I never do, but when I spoke last week about sort of looking at this as this is the Book of Boba Fett, and they did. You could make a case that maybe you'd like to see more backstory with Mando. They didn't really fill that gap between how he tracked his armor down, and there's some things that they could have answered. I don't think they're going to do that, honestly. At least not in this season or this series. I think the Book of Boba Fett was really the first 4 episodes, and now this is about how does this all tie into the overall universe. So I think for all intent and purposes, we're sort of done with the Book of Boba Fett proper.
Well, everything will pay off in the final episode. Right. I certainly hope.
Well, yeah, but I don't know that we're not looking. I mean, what I'm saying is like Book of Boba Fett was the first 4 episodes, and now this is the connective tissue, how it feeds into the rest of the big story, and I'm honestly I'm fine with that, really. Yes. If we go back and we look at the Book of Boba Fett, sort of episodes 1 through 4, and there's going to be. You're right, Jim. No, there's going to be some finality, and there's going to be a payoff. I think we need to know what the destiny of Jabba's crime empire, that territory, is going to be. I'm still going to predict that it ends up in Fennec Shan's hands. That's what I think is going to happen. I think Boba's going to take off. But once the Pikes
last week the speculation was that Boba could potentially take possession of the Darksaber and become the new ruler of the Mandalorians.
Yeah,
because it sure seems like Din is very reluctant to do something like that.
Right, I agree. All right, let's see. We got hey, Tyler, I'm not seeing any of your notes. I don't know if I did something wrong, but it seems like did we lose
all the calls dropped? But I do have their call notes written down. So if you call back, I can just write down the call notes again for you, Jason, and get them right back in there.
I think. Yep. I think what happened was, the bank account went to 0 and then it recharged, and then when it recharged, it dropped the call. So apologies on that. We do have Matt Tween from Tennessee. So Matt Tween, you're lucky. You're the lone. Yeah, you're the last man standing.
All right, chat, y'all. Thanks for having me.
Of course. What's going on?
You bet.
Man, just echoing on what you were saying earlier, Jason, in the previous caller, Book of Boba was announced at the end of Mando, so obviously they could tell ahead of time. We've really got a hold of some good stuff, but let's keep it going. And with Boba being introduced later in Mando season 2, let's ride that wave. But do you think just the way this series has gone, it started off with flashbacks with the Tuskens, and now it's just basically premiere stuff for Mando. Do you think this was their planned story-wise during the whole time, or it seems like Disney's like, let's kill 2 birds with one stone. Let's keep some content going, but let's also keep these original Mando characters in play to promote future programs to bridge the gap between maybe Kenobi and Ahsoka and anything else down the road. Because it's, I saw somebody in the chat earlier say they've already lost interest in Boba. We lost our what when Boba first appeared in Mando season 2, and now we're like, we could care less about him. Let's see more of Luke and Grogu and Ahsoka, and let's even watch this old house version episode of Mando repairing a starship.
This old starship, I like that. Where's Norm?
I'm not complaining, man.
No. I think Matt Tween, it is, I think 100% fair to ask the question: were there any shackles put on to Favreau and Filoni where they say, hey, we got this idea, we want to do this character study on Boba Fett, we think it'll be great? And did some of the brass say, hey, go have your fun with Boba Fett, but by the end of that, you got to tie it in to what's really got people excited and what I like to say what the fans want to see, but maybe it's like what's paying the bills around here, and that's Mandalorian and Baby Yoda and all of that. And I was talking to a good friend of mine who is in the T-shirt business, and you can actually tell a lot. Just like they say, like you can sometimes tell, or I guess always tell, who's going to win the presidential election by how many Halloween masks of the candidate they sell. You can actually tell a lot from T-shirt sales. And Mandalorian and Grogu shirts are flying off the presses. Boba Fett shirts, not so much. Like not at all. And this guy, my pal, is in a position to see hundreds and hundreds of thousands of shirts running off these presses. And he's saying it's not there. So what I think where I would draw the line, Matt, I don't think that this is a response to anything. It's not like the first couple episodes went out and then they retooled. I don't think that's how the production schedule allows it.
Impossible.
Right, impossible. Right, exactly. But
with the COVID restrictions and all of that stuff, they can't just retool the show.
No, of course
based
not.
on fan reaction after the first few episodes.
Right, I'm saying that's not impossible. That's impossible. What I'm saying is but it is fair to say that what could be possible is that they were given that they had to have at least 30% of Mando and Baby Yoda in order to get them to be able to do this other 70% Boba Fett. I think it's very possible and quite likely.
Well, I mean, they're
thanks, Matt.
All kind of strategizing on the way to roll this stuff out, but the consistent is Jon Favreau throughout. When Kathleen Kennedy announced what the upcoming programming slate was a couple of Christmases ago, she said the 3 interconnected series, Ahsoka, Rangers of the New Republic, and The Mandalorian, will take place at the same time period and will wrap up in a climactic story event. All right. So that was the game plan from the get-go. And it's Jon Favreau there who is calling all the shots. Now, if they said, well, you have to have Kenobi in here and you have to have the Acolyte and whatever else they're working on, then I would say, yeah, I think this is some studio meddling going on. But because it's all under the Jon Favreau umbrella, the Favreau-Filoni umbrella, I think that it's being interconnected purposefully, and that was always the plan.
From a creative standpoint, not from a financial or
right.
Okay.
However, from a marketing standpoint, you don't want to take a character as hot as little Grogu, sweet baby Yoda, and put him on ice for 2 years.
Right.
You just don't want to do it. They have to keep all of that stuff fresh. And it would be foolish to do it any other way. And I think George Lucas would approach it the same way, the exact same way.
Yep.
Because George is no fool. He put out, he signed off on the holiday special just to keep Star Wars fresh on kids and consumers' minds while he was working up the sequel.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And he gave us Ewoks.
Ewoks were made for merchandising.
Exactly.
So was Jabba's palace.
Right. Right.
I mean, Lucas realized he hit gold with that cantina when all those action figures started selling.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the mid to late 70s. So he was like, let's do it again. Move some product. Yeah, he's no fool. and you have to think in terms like that. You almost have to.
We got Steven from Maryland, a Patreon supporter and first-time caller. Hello, Steven. Welcome.
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for taking my call. How are you this evening?
Doing great.
Me too. I feel like a kid back in the movie theater in 1983 after watching this episode.
Now you're talking. Now you're talking, my friend.
You guys really triggered a thought in my mind, though, from the first caller. And I just want to interject one quick point before I get to my main ones. The sequel trilogy is what happens when you take Star Wars on as a challenge. The Mandalorian and the Book of the Boba Fett are what happens when you make Star Wars a labor of love. And it couldn't be more crystal clear than the content that we're getting. Now, for me, I know that Jon Favreau is a huge serial Western fan. So as soon as I saw this episode, it instantly transported me to Deadwood. Pretty much Timothy Oliphant playing his character from Deadwood in this show. But what Boba Fett strikes me as, what they're going for, is giving me a very strong Tombstone vibe. Boba Fett to me kind of strikes me as the Wyatt Earp character. He did what he had to do, and then he wanted to get out of the violence, but the violence wouldn't allow that. The problems came to the town that he is in, and he is forced then to put together his posse. And I know Disney doesn't do anything by accident, so I don't think it's by coincidence that they wrapped up the War of the Bounty Hunters in the comic books right before this series started launching. So I have a feeling we're probably going to see some characters. They've already brought in characters from the comics only. So I think we're going to see some characters probably in his posse from his past. And one last point, I think the mithril chain makes sense because the Mandalorian knows what Jedi wear when they fight. So I think, and this is my bold prediction, we're going to get a very Lord of the Rings-ish scene where Grogu chooses the armor, and we think he gets a death blow struck, but it's the armor that saves him, much like Frodo in Lord of the Rings. I see it happening because it also has its fantasy roots. But I want to know what you guys think about, going to the serial Western. Do you feel like maybe Boba Fett's becoming set up as that wider character? I just kind of want to hear you kind of expand upon what you think about with the Western being thrown in there.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, Stephen. I'll tell you what I think about the Western is I've realized how little I know about classic Westerns and how much I want to know more, down to the fact that I just bought The Man with No Name saga on Blu-ray, and I'm expecting it to deliver because these stories have made me want to. They were just movies that my grandpa used to watch on Sunday afternoons. I've seen some of the modern ones. I have seen, of course, Tombstone is great and The Unforgiven, but the ones that you're referring to that go way back, to the 60s and the beginning of Clint's career, and I'm not steeped enough, to draw comparisons, but I want to learn. It's something that this show has really kind of turned me on to, and I've realized that that's a whole fun area that I really want to go and explore.
Yeah, well, I mean, Star Wars has always had that connection with the Wild West and the old Western. George Lucas, definitely influenced by films like The Searchers by John Ford and John Wayne films throughout the years. And of course, we've been getting these references to the spaghetti Westerns ever since Cad Bane's debut. But as far as Boba Fett being a Wyatt Earp type, yeah, I see the parallels in there. I do. I do. It's just that Boba has his eye on a larger platform. He wants bigger things. He doesn't want to just get out. He wants to run the whole show. So if he does evolve into that character that takes possession of the dark saber and finds a greater purpose as a leader of the Mandalorians, well, I think it's maybe, a 20% chance that would happen. I think it is a long shot, but I like the idea of it too, because then that would really, really reaffirm that Wyatt Earp-like desire to just completely get out. I mean, we also saw something very similar with Michael Corleone in Godfather 3. He was striving for legitimacy, and every time he tried to get out, they pulled him back in. And that was very hard on him. And, he just couldn't ever. So he ended up dying, still wrapped up in crime. It's sometimes when you devote your lifestyle to something, it's impossible to separate yourself from it after a while.
Yeah, for sure. Here's Jack from Kansas. Jack, I think you're reading my mind. I've got a similar question. Go ahead. Hello, Jack.
Jack. There he is. Good, Jack. Thanks for calling. Swank says you got a question. Yeah. What's your question?
Reading through the chat, I think we're all maybe on a similar wavelength here. I kind of got a question about Luke and his whole Jedi philosophy. It seems very prequel era, this whole idea of, you can't have attachment. But this is the same Luke who, he went back for Han. He saved his father through loyalty and a love for his family that still loves his sister and his nephew eventually to train him. So where is this, oh no, you can't, you need to detach yourself. That seems, where's he getting this thing? Is it from Ahsoka and talking to her, studying the old Jedi ways and maybe thinking, oh, maybe I'm wrong? Because it seems contrary to original trilogy Luke. And I hadn't really seen anybody else talk about this, so I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that. Is this consistent with OT Luke?
Yep, Jack, thank you very much. I'm glad you brought it up because I had a couple of notes about this, mainly just to bring up the topic, because this is something that frustrated me a little bit, as great as this episode was, is that I thought we were finally free from some of this dogma of attachment. I thought that Luke, in a sense, embodied how that was not true, that you could experience love, attachment. I mean, we're not talking about marriage here, obviously, but that you could experience all of those things and still fulfill your destiny. So I was a little bit disappointed every time that came up. But in the back of my mind, I kept thinking perhaps that's going to be a lesson that he learns. Perhaps maybe that lesson is furthered with with how he sees Grogu develop. Grogu may find a way to make them both work. You know, maybe it is, like someone was saying, wielding Yoda's lightsaber, but also having that Beskar Under Armour on. You know, maybe that's, symbolic of the best of both worlds, that he can be trained by Luke, but he can still have a relationship with Din Djarin. I'm hoping that that's where we go to, that it's not as black and white, because Jim, it is feeling very prequel-y.
When Luke started his training, he didn't know of any restrictions about attachments to people. He didn't know anything about that. He saw where he failed that selflessness test and he raced to save his friends. And Palpatine himself kind of drove this point home with Luke when he said, your overconfidence is your weakness. And Palpatine said, your faith in your friends is yours. Even Palpatine recognizes that Luke had a level of attachment that was distracting him as a Force user on the light side of the Force. And yet Luke persevered, and it was his attachment to his father that essentially saved the galaxy. It was his attachment to Darth Vader is what brought old Anakin back into action, and thus promoting the death, albeit temporarily, of the Emperor. and also
because somehow he comes back.
Somehow Palpatine's back. So there's attachment. Luke has lots of attachment to his sister, attachment to his friends, attachment to the rebellion, attachment to his father. So I'm surprised to see he's sticking with the Jedi dogma that may have failed them as an organization to begin with. So you think Luke would retool things a little bit, kind of make the Jedi faith a little more progressive, maybe, I don't know, and cut back on those restrictions. But the Ahsoka thing, what kind of connection does Luke have with Ahsoka? Because when she leaves, he's like, am I ever going to see you again? It didn't seem like she was a regular at his academy. At first I thought, well, she's just been hanging there with Luke, assisting Luke with baby Yoda. But that doesn't appear to be the truth at all. It appears that she was just there to kind of block Din from reconnecting with baby Yoda. But how long was Ahsoka there? Did she just show up? We see her arrive in this episode and then she leaves, or was she there already for a while? I tend to believe she was there already, and she got to know Luke, and maybe she's been communicating on and off with Luke over the years and instructing him in the ways of the Jedi. But Ahsoka's a little jaded in that department herself. She walked away from the Order. So what does she want to see the Jedi Order continue for anyway? That's kind of confusing.
Yeah. What is her? I had some notes about that as well. What is her role? What is her interest? What is her point of view on all of this? Because it seems like she's an unlikely person to oversee or advise on the rebuilding of, the Jedi Order. Something that, and she was even offered an opportunity to come back with the promise that they would do better. And she said, and she refused. So even the promise of reform wasn't enough for her. So why is this different? I mean, this is a nuke and pave, I guess, of the old ways. But I think it's a very fair criticism to say that this could be a bit of inconsistency here. I would like to see a loosening up of some of this. And I try to think like, well, what if Filoni was here or something? What might he say? And he might bring up something about the age of the people, the age of the students, how that's a factor. And that with great power comes responsibility, and, with that sort of thing. And that when you're older and you're more seasoned, you're more, more mature, you're more powerful, that you can maybe make, I guess it's like maybe when you learn the piano, you can't really improvise until you learn all the rules of any instrument, and then you can improvise a little bit. Maybe that's what Jedi training is, that in the beginning you have to really stick to the rules and not violate them until you get more experience. Then you can kind of go outside the lines, I guess. Maybe that's something.
That's only natural.
Sure.
Yeah.
Got some super chats here. This is Lady Chewbacca's dad. Everyone's a lady now. Think Grogu chooses Din and Luke takes him to Tatooine and gets drawn into helping clean up his home planet from the Pikes. I want G to choose Luke. Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. I think that is a likely way that he'll get to Tatooine. I was thinking, like, how's he going to get to Tatooine? Is he going to get to Tatooine? I'm not convinced, by the way, that he is going to get to Tatooine. I don't know that we're going to see Luke involved in a gang fight. I could be wrong.
No.
I could be wrong.
I feel the same way about Ahsoka.
Yeah,
I don't see them getting involved in that at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
That's Luke, what? Because Luke's nostalgic for Tatooine. He hates that place.
Yeah. Nothing to see. Travis says, also, my daughter Lillian turned 17 today. Happy birthday to all. 2222. Happy birthday, Lillian. That's great. 17. Oh my gosh. A couple more years I'm going to be there. And happy birthday.
17. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, you didn't realize this, but Jason Swank is only 15
I
years
meant
old.
having a daughter who's going to be 17. That's what I meant. That's what he was talking about. Yeah.
All right.
Carol Thompson says,
I hope you stock up on blood pressure medication, my friend.
Carol says, did Cad Bane shoot the sheriff and the deputy? Is Vanth dead? Oh, I thought she was making an I shot the sheriff reference.
Yeah. Let's see. Bob Marley shot the sheriff, but he did not shoot the deputy.
Right. What do you think? I think Cobb is going to live to fight another day. I don't think he's dead.
Sure. He took one blast, and they were there with the back to patch immediately.
Right.
And getting him. So he was alive. He definitely was not killed off in that moment.
Deputy Scott.
I thought he was.
Yeah, I was too. And I watched with the subtitles on, and I don't know how much of that dialogue you could really hear, but in the subtitles, it's all, is he breathing? Let's get him inside. So it seemed like there was
that
hope.
Dialogue was inaudible in the mix.
Oh, okay. So I'm glad I had the subtitles on.
Inaudible. Yeah, you get some bonus dialogue sometimes.
Yeah. Here's David Fieldson. He says, love the show. Do we know who the 3 Jedi were that Grogu witnessed being killed by the 501st? Jim, you covered that a little bit ago. You have a theory about at least the middle Jedi.
I thought it was Sindralig, played by Nick Gillard. Just the ponytail, the brown Jedi garb, the green saber. And according to lore, he was there in the temple defending the Padawans and other Jedi from the Order 66 and the clone troopers from the 501st Battalion. So I believe that is him. I believe that is an honestly intentional look for that character.
They're not supposed to be generic. In other words, if they're not just like generic Jedi.
No.
Pixie Doodle. Mando thought not ask Luke how use the dark saber. Sorry, I don't.
You never got the chance to ask him.
Yes. Okay, there it is. All right. Sorry, that was all.
And again, Mando already knows what he needs to know about the darksaber. He knows that he doesn't need to fight against it. He needs to let the darksaber do its thing.
Yes.
But he's going to have to learn that on like how to actually achieve that. He's going to have to work on that discipline on his own. But I mean, Luke would probably say the same thing to him that the armorer said. So it would just be kind of a redundant situation.
More from Lady Chewbacca's dad. I hope it mirrors Empire Strikes Back and Grogu leaves to help you Din, then comes back. Din encourages him to train. Luke has attachments and knows the council failed. Yeah, kind of what I was thinking, that maybe Grogu is sort of the catalyst behind some of that softening.
Well, I certainly don't want him in that Jedi temple when Kylo Ren unleashes a can of whoop ass. I need Grogu to be far away from that situation.
What are we? Yeah, if you're out there on Team Luke, at least in terms of Grogu, what are you really rooting for? I mean,
yikes!
Yeah, we know that. We know how that ends. This is not going to end the way you think.
Let him be a Mandalorian, for crying out loud. Save his life.
Right. Selena says, I had mixed feelings about Luke's training, loved Force talk and Yoda's wisdom, but confused by attachments issue. Luke's friends and father helped him save the universe thoughts. Yeah, that's what we've been talking about. Yeah, we're with you, Selena. We're feeling kind of the same thing, but we're going to wait and see.
It's good to be feeling the same vibes as other fans, you know?
Yeah.
And to get feedback like that.
Remy says, anyone else surprised that Grogu is Luke's first student? No, I wasn't actually surprised. Yeah, right. Time-wise.
Kip Duron. Kip Duron or one of those guys from the expanded universe.
Oh, I snagged these picks, by the way. Just if I did it for myself, really. If we look at the hut there on Skellig Michael, and those were real. What were they monk dwellings or something that were there? I don't remember quite, but they were actually there and then incorporated, obviously, into the shoot of the film. And then here's from Mandalorian or Boba Fett. So definitely sequel trilogy vibes there for sure.
Maybe no. That'd be impossible. No, I was going to say something, and I'm not going to share it with anybody because it's so flawed. It's so wrong.
Flazin says Luke's training should be a new Jedi code away from old. The old ways led to downfall. The learning to let go is relevant, but not to the sacrifice of all family. The Jedi's downfall was in reason to their old ways. Yeah, I totally agree. It's like it's too extreme. It's just too extreme. Too inflexible. Garrett says, thanks, Jimmy, for changing my mind about barely seeing Boba in the last 2 episodes. I was a bit down about it until you laid it all out. And thanks for keeping me company at work with these after shows.
Oh, wow. It's great to be there with you, shuffling papers in the cubicle or flipping burgers or driving the truck, whatever you do. But I'll tell you what, I don't know what he means. Does he mean when I said that the series was kind of top heavy with Boba up front? And now it's re-entering into the interconnected story as established in The Mandalorian. That's what I believe I said, and that's kind of what I go by when I'm consuming this content. I don't get all bent out of shape that the name of the show is The Book of Boba Fett, and suddenly it starts segueing back into the bigger picture of The Mandalorian. It's not that big a deal to me.
Yeah. Well, I'm certainly learning, to not get upset about things like that because now I know. Now I know when the Ahsoka series comes on that Ahsoka's not going to be necessarily in every single episode, and that it won't it'll certainly tie into other stuff. So I think that's to be expected. Kenobi can't, right? Kenobi we know cannot because of the timeline, but that doesn't mean that it can't connect to other things, other projects that are out there in the future that could be in a similar timeline. With the Empire gone, this is from Adam. Adam says, with the Empire gone and Mandalore a wasteland, what do you think by the way, that's Lady Bo-Katan to you, and the armor are meant by retake Mandalore who controls the planet now? What do you think Bo-Katan and the armor meant by retake Mandalore who controls the planet now?
Well, it's been under Imperial suppression, so perhaps the Empire still camps out there. We've seen Imperial remnants.
Well, wait a minute. Didn't they convince all of the Mandalorians that it was inhabitable? I thought that was the thing.
Boba says it was turned to glass.
Right.
Bo-Katan said to Mandalorian, don't believe everything you hear about the Mandalorian system. Mm-hmm. So there appears to be some misinformation out there about what's going on in Mandalore. And I think it's possible that there is an Imperial remnant still active on the planet and restricting any sort of movement in and out of the system.
You know what, though? But Joe Rogan pulled that podcast with Bo-Katan down because it was misinformation about what was happening on Mandalore. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, we know the Empire is, they were a propaganda machine, just like other evil empires throughout the history of Western civilization. And I don't know where Joe Rogan weighs in on that specifically. And I wasn't even thinking about him.
Here's Dom. Dom says, I think Grogu will choose the lightsaber, but Luke will give him the armor after. Luke just wants Grogu to make a clear choice and not be conflicted. Okay, maybe.
Kind of would lose a little bit of respect for Luke if
I'm just kidding. You can have it both ways.
Like that'd be kind of a blow to his integrity. Yeah. He's like, yeah, you can have them both now. But
you can have the candy and the ice cream. You don't have to choose.
Yeah, very soft parenting going on here, but whatever.
That's kind of like how I am at night, when the wife goes into the room, I'm like, yeah, you can have a popsicle and the ice cream. Go ahead. So easy. I'm such a mark. This is from Estacio. Says, crazy theory. Major Domo Crimson Dawn agent.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not that crazy. I mean, he was definitely closely associated with the mayor. He sure seems to be making a lot of excuses for the mayor. He was a gatekeeper for the mayor, and he seems to be part of the mayor's inner circle. So I don't think that's a crazy theory at all. I think he could be connected with Crimson Dawn. Yes.
Nivkabar 117 says, this is Kevin in this is Kevin in Seattle. Cad Bane made the mistake of persuading with fear that this town is about freedom, and without having the marshal make a statement, they just joined Mando, looking forward the fight. Yeah, yes, I agree. You don't come to Freedom Town and think that you're going to push him around and tell him what to do and how to think and whose side to be on. I agree. Came to the wrong town. Here's Scott.
I don't think Cad Bane gives a you-know-what, man. I don't think you can call it, whatever you want to town. And Cad Bane's going to roll in there and carry on with his agenda. What I found interesting was when Fennec Shand was explaining what the state was of all these crime families in Tatooine. And she revealed, even, despite the fact Boba had a sit down with all of these heads of families, they're all laying down for the Pikes. They're just letting it happen.
Yep.
And so it's really Boba on his own against everyone. And now it's Boba, Chrysanthemum, the Mandalorian, and
Boba
D8.
Right, but Boba tried to get him on his side, and they didn't want to, and he said, okay, fine. If you're not going to fight for me, just don't fight at all.
Sell me out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Just don't sell me out. So they're all just letting it happen with the Pikes. And, I'm sure that Cad Bane was paying some visits to people as well, sort of reinforcing the whole idea. Just let the Pikes do what they want.
Scott, thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it. We got Sal Pipitone here. Can we just put Dave and I think he means Jon Favreau in charge? So Dave and John in charge of Star Wars for the foreseeable future. It was amazing seeing Luke. He looked great this time around. Training scenes got me all teary-eyed. Hope we get to see more Luke in the future. Can we just put Dave and John in charge of Star Wars? I think they are. I think they are. I think you're looking at it. I don't know anybody else that has more clout when it comes to, Star Wars storytelling. I mean,
no. And everyone else who was working on it quit or got fired.
Yeah, exactly. Look at Patty Jenkins. Blake says, is it possible the Hutts gave the Rancor to Boba with an inhibitor chip in it?
No.
Execute Order 67.
Gronak says,
programmed all the Rancors with. Yeah.
Chut, guys. So how do we think Luke came to have Yoda's lightsaber in his possession? I wondered that too.
Easy.
Oh, how is that easy? What? How does he have it?
He was at Yoda's house when Yoda died and became one with the Force. You think he's just going to leave Yoda's lightsaber sitting around? Hell no. He knew exactly where Yoda had that bad boy. It was in a little wooden box.
You know what happens?
He took the box and the saber.
You know what happens
Yoda
when someone dies? You take the cufflink. So when someone dies, you take the cufflinks out of the drawer. You take the watch. That's what you do. That's what Luke did.
Yeah, right. Or maybe even Yoda willed it to him or something. You never know. He left behind his last will and testament there, and Luke read it, and he's like, oh, he left me his lightsaber. God bless that guy. He's just what a great guy. But no, I mean, Yoda clearly had possession of his lightsaber following his battle with Palpatine in the Senate Rotunda, and Bail Organa saved him in the speeder and rushed him off to his starship, where it was next stop for Yoda was Dagobah. Yoda didn't have any other personal possessions on him outside of the robe he wore and the lightsaber he had clipped to his belt. And that was it. He showed up in that
few clay pots and a ladle.
Well, maybe he forged that stuff there while he was there.
You're talking about you're talking about what he showed up with. I'm sorry. I thought we were still talking about what Luke might have grabbed out of the hovel before he left Dagobah.
It's not much in there. Yeah, a pot, a ladle, a snake, and a lightsaber in a wooden box. That's all Yoda had.
Yeah.
He had no possession.
No. Oh, look who it is. Sheldon Norton.
Hey, Sheldon. Sheldy. He doesn't want to be called Sheldy. I mean, I wasn't trying to call him that. I was going to say Sheldon.
Just came out. Well, you want to shorten it.
Sorry, I apologize for that, Sheldon.
It just seems very formal, but he prefers it. Yeah. Anyway, our old buddy Sheldon says, with this cinematically historic, fully realized, and utterly convincing deepfake Luke, will we see a Luke Skywalker feature? Maybe. If so, see you in Chicago 2024 for an RFR immediate reaction video. Yeah, get the camera right in our face. It's a shame Sheldon's not here every time we see an episode of Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett. What did you think?
Yeah.
No, Sheldon, thanks for that. We were just saying that we think that there are going to be features. I don't know about a Luke Skywalker feature, but I think there are going to be features with the original characters done in this way.
It opens up a lot of possibilities.
Yeah.
For future storytelling in the Star Wars universe. That wasn't really even on the table when Disney started working on The Force Awakens. Really, it's just come on so fast.
Yeah.
It's really exciting.
Yeah, it has. Kevin in Seattle is back. He says, where's Kitster? Not in this episode. I don't know. We're going to get Kitster, man.
They're saving him
Kenobi.
For the Kenobi show. That's what's his name? Kumail Nanjiani. He's going to play Kitster, I think.
Kitster?
He'd be great adult Kitster. Are you kidding me?
Howdy, it's David says, it's clear they're going to braid all the series now Avengers style. No way this all gets resolved in just one more episode. It'll continue on to Mando 3. Now Ahsoka is tied to this universal storyline. Yes. So it will be Boba Fett, Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and the New Republic. What's it? Guardians of the
Rangers of the New Republic.
Guardians. Rangers.
Which is not going to be happening.
It'll show up as something else.
Well,
yeah,
Kathleen
I think
Kennedy
the concepts,
herself said that there were no scripts written for Rangers of the New Republic, and that they're going to take all the scripts that they didn't write and incorporate them into other shows like The Mandalorian. I mean, she contradicted herself when she was talking about it. She said, there's nothing written for Rangers of the New Republic, but we're going to take all that and put it into the Mandalorian.
All that nothing.
She's quoted as saying that.
Oh, I know. It's funny. She needs to run for Congress. Ripbag says, oh, nothing. Just $4.99. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that.
Ripbag. That's my favorite screen name of the night. I'm Ripbag.
Didn't that happen to Andy on The Office? Didn't he rip his bag?
Oh, when he did the splits?
Yeah,
and he had his car keys in his pocket? Oh, man. Yikes.
Jen Ryan Photog says, so they blew up the sanctuary. Oh, yeah, we can talk about that. The terrorism, the active Pike terrorism, radical Pike terrorism. Do you think this might push all the heads of the families back to Boba? It might, because that's a popular spot, man. They like to go and get their helmets full of, they like to go get their helmets polished there. That's all I'm going to say.
Right. And that is code for something.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow, we lost all of it. We lost Jennifer Beals.
Oh,
we lost, Figuring Dan, maybe.
Maybe Max Rebo. We don't know.
Maybe Max is just like a big blue stain on the wall now.
And everyone knows that's hard to get out.
Bleach, nothing will work.
No.
Sandblast that stuff out.
Dustin says, will Baby Yoda get the armor and the lightsaber and become the next Jedi-Lorian like Tar Vizsla? I mean, I gotta say, look, there is an aspect of ridiculosity in this, of little Baby Yoda swinging a lightsaber around and being a fierce warrior. I don't think we're gonna see that. It doesn't work. He's a baby. It'll get.
He's got to start talking first.
Right. But no, do I think that he could be some sort of a culmination of the two cultures, the Jedi ways and the Mandalorian ways? I think so. I think he could have two dads. Tom Baker says, "Stranger in a Strange Land, Maiden." Yes, thank you very much for that. A few more of these here. You guys are just really kind. Thank you. MJV says, do you think we will ever see the conversation between Ahsoka and Luke about Anakin? By the way, longtime listener since Forcecast on my old 4th gen iPod. I think we had some Forcecast stickers and signed a few of those old iPods back in the day.
The memories.
Yeah.
The memories.
So do you think that we'll hear... Yeah, will we hear Ahsoka and Luke talking about Anakin?
I was so curious about the reference made to Anakin in this episode when Luke is watching Grogu and he says I don't think his heart is really in this. And that's what triggered Ahsoka. And she said, wow, you remind me of your father. She said something like that.
Yeah,
right.
Right.
She made it clear that she was seeing the similarities between father and son. I don't remember what her exact line of dialogue was, but I found myself searching through my memory at all seasons of the Clone Wars. Did Anakin and Ahsoka ever have a conversation about her, perhaps not her heart wasn't in it? I always thought Ahsoka was like a star pupil.
Yeah, I wondered where that came from.
Yeah. So does anybody in the chat know, is this referencing a prior conversation between Anakin and Ahsoka? Is this something that could have happened when she was leaving the temple? And I just never committed that one line to memory. Anakin saying, your heart isn't in it. I don't think your heart's in it. Because man, Ahsoka, she was really, really into being a Jedi. And star pupil and very enthusiastic and didn't want to let anyone down all the way up until the end. And then at the very end, she got a taste of something that she did not agree with.
Right.
Let us know. If you know what conversation that could be referencing, let us know.
Howdy, it's David says, they retconned the bit about Yoda's lightsaber. It's destroyed after fighting Palpatine in the comics.
The comics. Come on, you guys. Let's be adults here. I mean, for crying out loud. You think Jon Favreau is going to go, I can't give the saber to Baby Yoda because Masamita destroyed it in a comic book.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
And
it makes no sense because Yoda is seen leaving. Am I right? He doesn't drop his saber. He loses his cloak.
He loses his cloak.
He loses his cloak. But does he drop the saber? I could have sworn he had it.
I feel like I have a memory of him.
Speeder.
Yeah, you know when he's crawling through the through the ductwork there before he drops in on the speeder. I feel like he's got his saber hanging from his belt.
I'm gonna take a look.
Tyler Page is shaking his head yes, and Tyler doesn't normally react at all to the show, so I'm on to something.
Tyler, we don't even know Tyler's breathing half the time.
That's right.
This time he's emphatic.
All right,
about
a couple more guys. I am so sorry. We are not going to be able to get to all these chats tonight. I do apologize. Going to do a couple more and try to get one more call before we wrap it up. Jacob Paul says maybe next week Boba can appear for more than 2 frames. Yeah. You'd think. Prediction. Cad Bane defeats but doesn't kill Mando, or at least obtains the Darksaber, and Boba challenges and defeats him for it, fulfilling the prophecy of last week's after show. Cad Bane defeats but doesn't kill Mando, and Boba challenges and defeats him. Okay, all right. That would be, it's like in pro wrestling. It's like you got two baby faces. You know that they got to drop the belt from the one baby face to the other baby face. So who's the heel that's going to come in between and bridge the gap? So essentially, Cad Bane's going to be the heel. He's going to drop the belt to Cad, and then we're going to give it to Boba. Okay, all right, I buy it. Good theory. Let's see. Frank says, my money says Cobb Vanth is alive. I thought it was conspicuous how much the bystanders were asking if he was still breathing. Yeah. And you get that only if you're reading the subtitles. And yeah, it was, is he alive? I don't know. Is he still breathing? Let's check. Let's get him inside. Yeah, that was my reaction. All right.
I don't see any evidence of Yoda having possession of that lightsaber. Following his duel with Palpatine. I mean, that's just something I've seen it in my mind's eye, and it just, I'm not seeing it now as I'm flipping through the scene here on Disney Plus.
All right.
I'm not really sure where he
last caller. We've got Leia from Virginia. Hello, Leia. Welcome to Rebel Force Radio.
Hi, Jason and Jimmy.
Chet.
Thank you very much for taking my call. I'm a first-time caller, and I'm just a tad bit nervous, so bear with me.
Don't be nervous at all.
Oh, sure.
But I had a theory about something that I think we might see next episode that I wanted to share with you and see what you thought about it. I think that Grogu is gonna choose the chainmail and kind of refuse the call to adventure, just like Luke did in A New Hope initially with Obi-Wan. And I think the result of that, it might be that Luke will have to take Grogu to Tatooine to bring him back to Din. And I'm wondering if there might be kind of a similar thing that happened in A New Hope, where Grogu witnesses something bad happening to Mando that causes him to either think that Mando has been killed or is very badly injured, and that this results in Grogu then having to stay with Luke and take up the responsibility of being a Jedi. So I don't know if that sounds feasible to you guys, but I thought that maybe there could be like a little bit of mirroring between, what happened in A New Hope and what's happening now.
Leia, I think in order for that to really work, you would have to kill off Mando. For that to really work, for it to be that profound where it pushes Grogu in the direction of committing himself to the Jedi. With Luke, Luke wanted, he had that spirit of adventure, but the one thing that was where he was clipped to Tatooine was his loyalty to his aunt and uncle. And once they were gone, there was nothing holding him back. Absolutely nothing. With Grogu, Mando is always going to be there unless he's not there. And I just think, to step out of universe for a minute and look at this from the standpoint of this the popularity of the character and the equity that they have in the character of Mandalorian, I don't think he's going anywhere. But it doesn't necessarily mean that, because Luke says to Grogu that I can teach you. You're little, but my master said size matters not. I can teach you to defend yourself. I can teach you to take care of yourself. So there might be a moment where he realizes just how important and valuable Luke's training is, and then he has the maturity to, without regret or sadness or remorse, choose the path of the Jedi after having one last, hurrah or battle with Mando. So there could be something in there.
I think that we saw some interesting things in this episode that could lead us to some conclusions about what Grogu thinks about lightsabers. He might have some really bad feelings about them, considering he saw people in the Jedi Temple who were wielding lightsabers fail to protect themselves. He was watching Luke practice with his saber. And when he was watching him, was it a sense of awe? Like, oh my goodness, I'm seeing a master display his craft. Or was it a sense of dread? Making him flash back to something that made him feel wrong. And then Luke gave him the opportunity to find that clarity and understand why he feels that way about lightsabers. So maybe he doesn't want to have anything to do with lightsabers. Maybe Grogu at this point feels more naturally connected to being a Mandalorian foundling than anything else. And I think that's what he truly desires. He'll be a little more dangerous as a Mandalorian because he's received some Jedi training along the way. But I think it's very important when Luke says things like his heart's not in it. I don't think we should let a line of dialogue like that go over our heads. I think we got to grab hold of that line and really consider what Luke's saying. And Luke notes the uncertainty within young Grogu and gives him the opportunity to make his own choice. I think it's clear he's going to choose the path of the Mandalorian and forego Jedi training.
I agree. All right, Kevin Lyle, he's chiming in here. He's going around everybody, sending me a text. He says, Palpatine, and by the way, Kevin calls him Palpatine. Palpatine shoots Yoda with Force lightning, and Yoda loses his lightsaber at the end of Sith. So that's...
Yeah. I already looked at the video and saw that.
So for sure.
Yes.
So
and if Kevin Lyle says it so, then, there's really no debating it at all. Kevin is always right. Just ask him.
All right. Hey, Scott says, about TSA droid last episode, he said no weapons on commercial flights. Din said weapons were religion. Didn't Jedi fly with their lightsabers? Probably.
On commercial flights? We don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never seen that. Maybe we'll find that in Kenobi. We'll see it in Kenobi. Well, but he can't admit that he's a Jedi, so... I don't know. That is a good question. Things that make you say, Keith says, I thought Ben was Luke's first official student in his new Jedi Academy as per Rise of Skywalker. If Grogu doesn't pick the armor, wouldn't that be an obvious contradiction? I don't think they call him his first.
No, not that I recall. No.
Yeah.
Luke had already established the Jedi Academy when he was bringing in Kylo Ren. And it took him, he had to really lobby Leia and Han to let him take Ben Solo to the Academy and train him as a Jedi. He really had to convince them. And that's why Luke felt all that guilt, was because it was really his fault. He had to talk him into it, and it turned out to be a total disaster. So,
Cody says
that's interesting. I'll have to research that, but I don't believe that was ever established, that Ben Solo was the first student.
Cody says, finally caught y'all's live show. I'm so excited about this episode. So many callbacks to the OT. Thank you guys. Y'all make my Star Wars experience even better. Thanks, Cody. you help ours as well. Our buddy Jeff says, as a parent of 2 small kids, I want to be able to use the Force to move them along while walking like Luke did with Grogu. Please teach me, Master Luke. Oh my gosh, yes. Anybody with small kids know. Like going through the mall, wouldn't that be great? Oh, great point, Jeff.
It kind of reminded me of when you had the little one and you got mom holding one hand and dad holding the other hand and you swing them.
Yes.
You know, you swing them. That's what it reminded me of a little bit.
Chris says, was that Jocasta Nu being killed first in Grogu's flashback? If it was, it pokes an obvious hole in the popular theory that she saved him. I don't know. I have to go back and look.
No, it was Sindralig.
So it's only you only see those 3?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's only those 3. Okay,
so
yeah,
that's just
definitely not
Sin.
Jocasta there.
And then the other 2 were the bookends. They were just, random Jedi. But I believe that the appearance of that center Jedi was made to resemble Sindralig.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll find out.
Matthew says this is Star Wars that has a set of cojones. You're a good friend of mine. Thank you, Matthew. Indeed. Frank says, Swank, why don't you name him Frank? Me. Hey. That's right. Talking about the common name of Deputy Scott. And finally, Vincent says,
You know what Deputy Scott's last words were? He said, "Swank Ferrick." Swank Ferrick.
I get it.
Hello, is this on?
Episode 5 and 6. Episode 5 and 6 together, we would have fit great as Mando season 3 premiere. Disappointed that they put it in this series. Way too much fan service in one episode. Oh man, I got to disagree. I'll take the $5, but I got to disagree. I don't think this was fan service. I really don't. There was nothing in here that I thought was gratuitous, over the top, shoehorned in. I thought it was great, and I think, with the exception of maybe Luke's seeming appearance to like hold on to that Jedi dogma from the prequels, I think everything else in here felt really, really good and not clunky at all. Really good. Tyler, you still with us? Thanks, buddy.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
I'm here.
So we didn't get to all the callers. I know that there were a lot of good ones. We tried to get to as many as we could. What about you? What do you think after hearing our conversation and all the callers in the chat? What's your thoughts about this week?
There were a lot of callers didn't get through, but that's all right. I got them locked up here in the memory bank, and that'll make its way to Jimmy Mac somehow. So, but we're at a point in the series where everything's on the table, and that's so exciting to me. And I went out earlier today after watching this episode, and I rewatched George talking to those 7th graders that he did a while back, because he talks about attachment. And he talks about how a Jedi can love, but he can also not be attached. It's this gray area, and now we're dealing with that.
Like me and my wives, you love them, but you're not attached.
So it's I'm really, really invested in where we're gonna go with that. There's one caller though that I wanted to talk about, Casey from Florida. He was a really cool guy. He had a great idea. Or maybe just an insane idea of if Grogu goes and joins the Mandalorian, will Luke end up having a commune with, Force Ghost Yoda, Force Ghost Kenobi, some sort of council to discuss what he did wrong, or sort of delve into that. And I sort of like that idea of bringing Force Ghosts into this, because I hadn't thought about that until KC told me, and it got my brain going. So I was wondering what you guys' thoughts are.
Well, that's something I wanted to see in the sequel trilogy. We were speculating about a Force Ghost Council going back to like 2013. I distinctly remember Kyle Newman talking about the Force Ghost Council. And of course, Kyle had written his own screenplay for The Force Awakens years before it went in front of cameras. So that's a joke, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be demanding to see Kyle.
Want the Newman cut?
I just mean like up in his head,
Right.
Kyle is always thinking about this stuff. So yes, oh my God. Imagine the cleanup. It would be cleanup on aisle 12 if I'm standing there and the Force Ghost Council makes an appearance. Yoda, Ben, Qui-Gon, maybe. I don't know. But it would be fantastic. So, yeah, I would love to see it.
Yeah. All right. Tyler, thanks, buddy. We'll see you here next week for the big finale.
Oh, yeah, I'll be here.
All right. All righty. All right. Thank all of you so much for joining us this week. You can listen. You can rewatch this on YouTube. You can also listen to the podcast and the flagship show, Rebel Force Radio, that comes out each and every week, where we don't just talk about Book of Boba Fett. We talk about all things Star Wars. So if you're new to the program and you haven't checked that out, please do. We're available wherever you get your podcasts. Jimmy Mack, final thoughts.
Final thoughts on From the Desert Comes a Stranger. I only have a couple things left in my notes. We really exhausted the conversation with some great calls, killer super chats, and it's always just wonderful to get feedback from everyone. I was surprised nobody brought up the post-credit sequence. No, that's a joke. I'm just messing with you. There was no post-credit sequence, but I looked. I had swayed for a second.
You look every week, don't you? You look every week.
I had you. But, a lot of great... I love the callbacks to some of Yoda's lessons that Luke was telling little baby Yoda, don't try, do. Size matters not. That just made me feel good. It was like a little bowl of Star Wars chicken soup for the soul, quite honestly, and I really enjoyed that. Some great visuals, the Crate Dragon skull on top of the Sandcrawler, and then the Crate Dragon ribs decorating the inside of the Mos Pelgo Tavern. And I was like, wow, now that's a barbecue I would have loved to have been at. My goodness. They had rib meat forever. It was just a great episode. It just makes me very excited thinking about the potential of future Star Wars stories being told with Han, Luke, and Leia, or any other characters, really. And the toolbox is opening up a whole world of possibilities with storytelling. And that's kind of what George Lucas always wanted. He always wanted the technology to be there so it could keep pace with his imagination. And now I thought we were in a place where we thought we could see anything we want as far as cinematic entertainment goes. But with this deep fake technology that they're using now, this de-aging stuff, it's getting really good, man. And I'm very excited for the potential in not only future Star Wars streaming series, but on the silver screen as well. Creed Bratton, not in this episode.
All right, we'll see you next week for the big season finale. Or is it series finale? I don't know. Time will tell. Of the Book of Boba Fett, right here on Rebel Force Radio's Book of Boba Fett After Show. Thank you all so much. We'll see you next time. For Rebel Force Radio, I'm Jason.
And I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
the Force will be with you, always.